All right, I don't have a gavel. It's 5 o'clock. I hope I don't need the gavel after that. We'll call the meeting to order. And we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'll read. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. All right, I think just about everybody in the room has been through this before. Welcome, everybody. If you haven't met our new town manager, Mike Walsh, right here. Give him a little bit of break. He hasn't finished his third day on the job yet, so he did not have a lot of involvement in putting the budget together. But if I know Mike like I think I know Mike, he probably knows more about it than I do already. He's probably studied up on it. So pretty informal, obviously. We'll make room for you when it's your turn to come up and talk. And ask any questions you have. Anybody have anything they want to add to anything that's in the book? You guys have all been through this before. So I don't see Chief Ola. You guys want to go first? Are you ready? Sure. All right, come on up. We'll make some room for you. Get rid of this.
Three, does that make sense?
Yeah. We're going to try to keep 3 of them together for you guys.
That's right. They snort.
I have some handouts for everyone.
Sure, please.
Thank you.
So, Catherine, I think we're going to start in our book on D101. I think it's where this is.
Thank you.
Take it away.
All right, thank you very much. Good evening. My name is Lori DiBattista. I'm President and CEO of Granby Ambulance. I also have with me tonight Carol Brennan, our Treasurer. Last year we came together. We thought it was very successful that the both of us, give you an update. Actually, John is coming. John,
Everything okay, Chief?
Right.
You got time to get a sandwich. We bumped you.
okay.
I got 14 minutes, right? 13.
Yeah, but we skipped you. We're gonna come back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Grab a sandwich.
So basically, we're going to do what we did last year and go over a detailed analysis of what our expenses are, and then we'll definitely entertain questions with you after. The first page of our report is kind of a summary of what's happened to us in 2023. I know we've had many questions because we do serve 3 areas. We serve the town of East Hartland, we serve the town of East Granby, and we also serve the town of Granby. And kind of put together based on the consensus of the 2020, what our population rates are in our towns. So the top table kind of gives you a little bit of an overview of what we do for our towns. So I'm going to go for it very briefly. East Granby, we receive $47,500 a year. And based on our percentages of what we get for town fees, it's about 66% of our town fees that we receive from East Granby. Our contribution per capita from the town of East Granby is $9.11. The number of calls we did on the calendar year of 2023 was 520, which is 28% of our calls. So basically our contribution their contribution value per call is $91.35. East Heartland, their population is 8.5% based on our total base of what we do. Their contribution level is $4,500, and that basically is a 63% contribution to the fees. Turns out to be $3.01 per capita for the town of East Heartland, and the number of calls we do is 93, which is 5% of our calls, and their contribution per call is $48.39. The town of Granby, our population is 61%. The contribution is $20,000 a year, which equates to $27.8%. Our contribution per capita is $1.83. The number of calls we do is 891, which is 48% of our calls are in the town of Granby, which equates to $22.45 per call based on the contribution level. This past year, we invested a lot of dollars in increasing our salaries. After COVID, as everyone had experienced, a lot of folks left the field. No matter what field you're in, we were losing people. And we were losing people just as much as everyone else. So last year our board incentivized us to put more money into our raise pool to keep our current staff there, as well as getting additional people. So now we're sitting at 9 full-time people on our staff, and it's broken down as follows. Our paramedics, we have 6 paid staff. We have 2 per diems. Our EMTs, we have 3 full-time people, and we have 2 per diems. Our volunteers, at one time used to be 100% 15 years ago when I joined this organization. Our volunteers are down to 3, we have 3 EMTs, 1 in training, and we also have 1 that's doing a work-study program. Now the ones that are in training are basically heading off to school. One is going on to PA school, and 1 is not quite sure where she's going, but she's staying in the medical world. But we definitely get these folks back during their vacation periods. So the amount of volunteers we have is very low compared to what we had 15 years ago. Our board of directors is full volunteer. There's 6 at-larges from the town of Granby, and there's 2 at-larges from the town of East Granby. Our chief of service, Kate Coop, everyone knows Kate. She is a volunteer paramedic, and she also volunteers as chief of staff. We pay her a whopping $0. We are, in addition of adding on 2 more EMTs that are in the month of March and April, and we have a couple more folks that have been entertaining us. The word has gotten out that we have raised our rates. We're still not in the top, but we are definitely more competitive with our area associations. Our ambulances are getting old. Our 2014 ambulance has 212,000 miles on it. Our 2017 ambulance has 108,000 miles on it. Our 2022 ambulance, which is our brand new one, is 72,000 miles on it, and our fly car, which has the capability of everything that's inside of an ambulance, except it doesn't have the ability to transport patients, and that's on 44,000 miles. Our new ambulance is going to be due here October of 2025, and the cost on that is $285,000. And our anticipation delivery for our next unit, because we're in the process of ordering that, the cost of that has been estimated at $325,000, and we're supposed to be getting that either 2027 or 2028. It's getting very hard to get ambulances. Some really good news, our response times for our towns. We've been keeping track of it. We're making sure that we are keeping up to today's standards or exceeding it. Our response time for the town of East Granby is 6 minutes and 40 seconds. The town of East Heartland is 13 minutes and 38 seconds. Now remember too, we respond to East Heartland from Granby. And our town from Granby, because we're a little larger, we're about 8 minutes. So we're beating the average, and which we're very proud of. We try not to run people over when we're coming through the streets, but we're doing our best to get there as soon as possible. So that's kind of a rundown of where we've been in 2023. I'm going to turn it over to Carol Brennan to go over our detailed budget reports.
So that's on the next page. And I have 3 columns here. The first one is our actuals from July of 23 to January of 24. I haven't finished reconciling February yet, so I've only shown it for the first 7 months. The next column was our original 23-24 budget, and the last column is my proposed 24-25 budget. So as for income, which is this first group, we are actually doing better at the moment than we budgeted, so I felt very comfortable increasing that for next fiscal year, both between all the different receivables we get from the insurances, Medicare and Medicaid.
Did they increase their rates, or?
No,
they're
it's
actually
just
paying?
better, yeah, well, you'll see later on, it's so-so, but I think it's a combination of additional calls and just better payment. What's that? And, I'm sorry, additional transports, yeah, which said, yeah. We had, during the pandemic, we experienced a significant drop in the payments we were receiving. And that happened across the country where people were not working or whatever it might have been, and they just were not paying. So I had somewhat based the budget on what we had seen the previous years, because I didn't know if it was going to get better or not, and as it turns out, it got better. Another page I'm going to show you shows we don't have to go there yet, but it shows the breakdown in where we get payments from and where we are losing money, if you will. But continuing in with this budget, for the most part, we have had a significant increase in our salaries and benefits. And it has to do with having to bring on more people. The per diems, we used to have as much as 12 per diems, and they would work 1 or 2 shifts a month, and that made up a great deal of our schedule. They have pretty much disappeared as well, and we're probably down to maybe 2 per diems, and 2 medics and 2 EMTs. That's what we're at now, and they don't even put in that much time, maybe a shift a month. It has significantly changed. The number of volunteers has significantly changed. We're down to basically Kate for a regular basis. The other ones Lori mentioned, they come in on occasion. Some of them are college students, so we'll see them in the summertime, but they're not really here a lot. So in order to keep our schedules covered, we've had to not just bring in the people, but also increase the rates to be able to get them in. And of course, we had to increase the rates for people who were already here. So that has had a significant impact on our budget. That is on the second page for salaries, and I'll be willing to answer any question you have on any of the details here, but we've gone up not quite $200,000 on our salary and benefits. Most of that is in additional people. Our workers' compensation expense, because we had 2 big events in the last couple of years, that's gone up quite a bit. But I over budgeted last year for the health insurance expense, so the 2 of them kind of offset each other. The biggest increase is just in the salaries. The EMT staffing line that you see there, which part of the actuals, is that's what we did to make up some of the shortfalls we had in our staffing last year, is bring in outsourced people. So as a result of that, we are projecting a loss next fiscal year of $156,000. The next page is a look at how that whole thing breaks down. Salary and benefits, of course, is the majority of our cost, but really the discretionary amount is very small. I went through the budget and cut just about every place that I thought was possible. But in the non-discretionary, it's the fuel cost, it's the utility cost, it's the insurance cost. I can't do anything about that other than going and trying to find better rates, better oil cost, better, in the case of first aid supplies, more cost-effective supplies. Other than doing that, we really don't have a lot of control over the majority of that cost. So where we could, like I said, have discretionary cost, I did indeed put cuts in there. Some of the things that we've done is we did have somebody who came into the station, the Granby station only, and cleaned for us. That's gone. We are now making them do the cleaning themselves, and they were more than happy to do that. We have had a lawn service for all these years, and this year we're going to find a way to do it ourselves. We've had a couple people volunteer to come out and mow the lawn, and we've had somebody volunteer to give us a old but usable riding mower. So there are things that we are trying to do to reduce our costs. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of room in which to do it. The next one that I alluded to before, this one here, this is the, our breakdown. This is from our billing agency, and our breakdown of what we invoice and who we invoice it to and where we're getting payments. So in total, this covers 3.5 years. We stopped it at the end of September because, for the most part, that should be through the system. Things have been invoiced since the October are still working its way through. So we backed it off to a point where we think we should be seeing payments for all of these costs. So our gross invoicing over 3.5 years was $6.9 million. But because of, we call it contractual adjustments, but really it's Medicare just pays, I think it says on here, 36% of what we bill is all they pay on. Some of the difference does get paid by the patients themselves, which you will see in the patient column. Medicaid is the same thing. We only get maybe 26%. So that being a big bulk of what we see, the patient is also a big bulk of it. We end up with only 47% of what we invoice is what we collect. It's significantly less. In the bad debt adjustment over these past 3.5 years, we've written off $380,000. Now, we had decided a few years ago to go to collections, so about 2/3 of this, maybe 3/4 of it, has indeed gone to collections. And so far, we've been able to collect 8% of that. So of the $280,000 we sent to collection, we've collected about $24,000. $24,000 we may not have gotten before. So when the bill gets to the patient, sometimes it's because of their high deductible, sometimes it's because they have their 20% they have to pay. Once it gets to them, we pretty much only collect about 50. I think we've gotten a little bit better. We were, I think, at 50% before, and I think we've risen up to about 52%. So they will, our billing agency will write off what we send to collection, because as far as they're concerned, they are done trying to collect it. So this is the situation that we're dealing with in how to, and I'm going to go where it says there's $141,000 still due. So this is anything that was billed by the end of September is still $141,000 has not been paid. And I'm guessing that that $77,000 that's in the hands of the patient now will eventually be going to collections, because it's been 6 months, and if they haven't paid it, they're not going to. Not unless they get that letter from us and they decide to do that. So that's the situation that we're kind of dealing with in getting paid for our services. In what we invoice is indeed dictated by the state of Connecticut. We didn't bring it with us, but they publish what those rates are. That's what that gross billing amount refers to, is the amount the state allows us to bill. In addition to regular everyday transports that we bill for, we have been billing for, and I couldn't tell you what percentage they are of this, we've been billing for non-transports. So if we are called and we go there and we provide some treatment or some sort of service, but you don't want to go to the hospital, the state of Connecticut now allows us to invoice for that. So we have been doing that. I don't know how successful we are on collecting for that. Does anybody have any questions?
So you guys are a participating Medicare provider or a non?
All emergency services are non.
All non.
All non.
And Medicare has a rate allotment, and that would be in your gross column?
The gross column would be our actual approved rates.
Okay.
The net column would be what Medicare is
Right.
agreed to pay to.
Okay.
Well, 67% of our transports are Medicaid, Medicare.
Right. I would assume that a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Catherine, is anybody on Zoom?
You know, Kate is our chief of service. If you have any questions for her, she's here, so if you would like to. She's knows everything there is to know about this.
I appreciate the transparency. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. You guys have done a great job in getting us the information in a format that's easy for us to understand.
Good.
I have a question about the ambulances that are coming. You're expecting a third one, right?
No, we're expecting two. We have one currently ordered, and we have another one that we are in the process of. We finally, because we have one retired, we are looking to do another one, so there's two. So there's one at 2025, and then the other one, based on delivery date, could be 2027 or 28. Depends on the delivery.
Okay. And you told us this last time, I just don't remember the answer. Do you try to rotate them based on mileage or age or both?
A little bit of both. We rotate them based on, the station, because we do rotate them from East Granby to Granby as well. But it also depends on the age. Our youngest one is getting kind of beat up right now, because she's in Granby, so she runs a lot.
Okay.
We could see 72,000 miles on it already.
Yeah, usually we do about 77,000 miles a year.
So that one, the 2022 ambulance, you would expect to replace in 2032 or sooner?
Or sooner, yeah. Yeah.
We're going to have to follow up with you guys, because remember a while back I asked you to give me the prices and the expected delivery dates.
Yeah.
And so we built a percentage of those costs into our capital plan, but the years aren't matching up with what you said here tonight.
Okay.
So
Well, a lot of it's the delivery dates, they change with the manufacturer.
Right.
So we're kind of at their mercy.
Right.
Something about resistors.
Okay. Do you have commitments from the other towns on the capital portion of the ambulances, or are we the only one you're having those discussions with?
They all know that we're having discussions with all of them.
Okay.
The town of East Granby, we're not pushing them very hard, because the last year, because we didn't have that many people, East Granby took the blunt of it. So we are going to be talking to East Heartland.
Okay.
But the way we're going, if we don't get help, because you all know we have the Holcomb Fund, the Holcomb family delivered money to Granby as well. We have $1 million left. So with our increase of about $200,000 towards our salary budgets and benefit budgets, and if we don't get money for ambulances, that money will be gone in 4 years. So we definitely have a challenge. Carol's right. We are doing the best we can to do our fundraising. We have a good fundraiser in October. Actually, this year it's going to be in November. Last year it was more successful. So we're hoping we can double what we made last year. We keep working on it. We're getting more people involved. But it's hard to raise money, because there's a lot of people looking for money. So we're looking at 4 years, our $1 million will be gone.
So we'll go ahead, Mike.
Pre-COVID, what did the bottom line numbers look like?
I don't have that information with me. I think it was, as I recall, that it was more in the under 50,000 range of negative. And, as that was our budget, and as the year went by, we played as much as possible with trying to get volunteers to lower the salary cost and find places where we could save some money, but I would say it was probably each year under 50,000.
The reserve account, you talked about the million, so that's from the Holcomb family?
The Holcomb family, a lot of the nonprofits in town receive money from the Holcomb family, and we received a 1.7 million. We actually had the Holcomb family come and talk to us, and they encouraged us to spend some of it.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we'll spend some of it, but we're putting the rest away because we started seeing the trend that we were going to be, every year we need to take money out of the savings that we had. So we did buy and upgraded some of the hardware on our trucks. We bought new heart monitors. We bought new boxes for drug storages in our ambulances. Bought new key fobs and key locks on our building. So we did spend some of it as they requested us, but we also saved it because we needed it. And thankfully, our financial advisors have been keeping us above the million, but we've been taking money out of it every year since we got it.
Your payroll changes here, payroll benefits, that's what drives the difference from the 70. Basically, it's doubling the loss.
Yes, all those. It's a combination of having lost volunteers and per diems. Per diems, they cost a little less, but we also weren't giving them any benefits, so they weren't getting any PTO or holidays. But that number has dropped off. That's why we had to hire more people than we had before. So it's a combination of all those things have increased that budget.
Mike, for an example, our EMTs, our paid EMTs, up to about a year and a half ago, were getting $19 an hour. We boosted them up almost 25% because we were losing them. We couldn't afford to do that. And our medics were in the same boat. They were getting 23, 24. So now we got them up almost to $30 because we couldn't compete. We couldn't get the folks that we needed. So we spent a lot of money in the town of East Granby. Thankfully, they were quiet, but they also knew the situation we were in. But that town suffered because we didn't have people last year. And the board just said we can't do this anymore. So we're spending the money to make it happen because we want to provide quality service.
Yes.
We do not want to
it is.
leave Granby, East Heartland, or East Granby.
Okay, thank you.
So go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, you don't pay taxes on the building, right? Because it's not for profit?
No, but we repair it a lot.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, it's 20 plus years old.
It's like 1963 it was built, in the middle of the night.
No, it was built in 1981.
Yeah.
And then remodeled in 2003.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, you guys had a barn. Forgot about that.
Yeah. We still got it.
Yeah.
So I'd like to, I'll speak for myself, but and anybody else who disagrees, I'm grateful for the work you guys are doing. You've heard us say this before. We understand the challenges you guys have. We understand as long as we can maintain it, the value of having a community-based ambulance service. We've talked over the years of trying to assist through the capital, and I think we've made great strides this year in particular. Again, we built in some percentage contributions, but we're going to have to work with you on other years. And of course, we're proposing a substantial investment in the radio system and all that kind of stuff. So let's stay tuned. If you've been following what we've been saying, we have some real challenges ahead, all of us collectively, especially in the capital and especially in the first couple of years of the capital, as we focus on the radio communications and your needs and everybody else's needs. So I'll follow up with you.
Okay.
Go back and look at the email you sent, and we'll figure it out.
Yep, no, we can get those things straightened out for you.
Okay. All right.
Thank you very much.
Anything else? All right, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Chief, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Thank you for coming. D97, I think, is the main focus. You got anything for us, Chief?
Well, on the book, I think the number was I don't have the book in front of me here, but for 24, 25, 368, 756. So that's simply last year's fiscal years plus the grand list, as I communicated with Mark and Kimmy on. Overall, at the moment, it's sufficient. In the out years, next year and beyond, we've got some capital issues. So if you remember a number of years ago, I think it's 10 years ago, we did the capital adjustments. Costs are far outpacing what that recovery is. So we're only sitting at about 450, maybe 500K in the bank from the tax monies that we receive. We would have expected to be more like $1 million at this point with that original recovery plan. So we're working through that now. We probably need 2 trucks in the next 2 to 3 years, and it takes us 2 to 3 years to get the trucks. Original plans on trucks were, $800,000. They're now, a pumper is $1 million. The last one we bought was $456,000 in 2011. So costs are far outstripping anything that we had seen before. And again, nothing new that anybody looking to finance this might need. So we've got the oldest truck is a 1991, our Rescue. We actually refurbished that. We're on the 8th year of its refurbishment. So we're going to, it's over 30 years old already. So, and then the next one is one of our pumpers we'll probably do as well. So next year, we'll have to start talking seriously about how we manage through that, use the money we have plus any extra help we can get to figure that out. The model we've been using, as much as we've liked it, may not be working anymore. So we'll have to discuss what maybe new models might be appropriate. Good news is that the membership is up. We're at nearly 39 members right now. We saw 8 members added in 2023 alone. In the last 9 years, 8 new members is the highest we've seen in the last 9 years. Conversion rate to full membership depends on the year. Sometimes we're 100%, sometimes we're less. Depends on individual issues and where they're going. We think the reimbursement program that is now fully funded has been a big help to that. And already in 2024, we're already at 4 as of this week. So we're trending well to see the new membership. That's a big help. We were under the 20 there for the longest time. So heading in the right direction in terms of membership. Our 2023 Firefighter 1 class was the largest we've ever had since we've been sending folks to Firefighter 1 for the last 25 years. We sent 6 members to Firefighter 1 in 23, and they all passed the class. So they all can become interior certified, and they can become full members as soon as they finish the rest of their training. Only 2 or 3 of those were former cadets. The rest are walk-ins off the street. So it's great news. We're seeing a lot more influx there. So manpower is becoming still a concern, but less a concern at least at the moment. So good news there. And again, I think the reimbursement, while not maybe the only reason, definitely helps. It's been definitely helping. We did do upgrades this year, equipment purchases. The fire chiefs all received new portables, which are compatible with the new radio system that's been proposed. We're using those to communicate with our surrounding towns, so we're kind of cutting our teeth on the new technologies already and how to work with that. Our SCBA, air packs that we wear, they have a 15-year life on the bottles, and typically when you replace the bottles, you replace the whole pack. Last time we did this 13 and a half, almost 14 years ago, it cost us $125,000. To replace those packs now would be $350,000 just for that. We have submitted a AFG grant through the feds, so that grant submittal, we had help with a grant writing company for a small fee. They helped us make sure we submit it properly. We had used this grant a few years ago, more like 8 or 9 years ago, and we had gotten $25,000, $30,000 worth of turnout equipment back then. So we've been successful in this before. So PPE or SCBA is a good line for the AFG grant, so we'll continue to push there. Could be some help on the political side. There's usually, if we get a little help from some of the representatives, that usually helps drive to get some help there. So.
And the grant, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can talk about, again, it goes through the review process. We think we'll be good on the review process. And for the investment and cost of 1 year versus what we're recovering
I mean, it's basically almost a year's worth of recovery just for the SCBA alone. And we're required to wear it. It's a state OSHA requirement. OSHA is also mandated now that our gear be replaced every 10 years. There's been the national standards recommended they be replaced every 10 years. We were working under a program where we would inspect our gear every year and then only replace what had to be replaced. Now OSHA said if inspection or not, every 10 years it all has to go. So we had an investment of almost $50,000 in PPE in the last 18 months to upgrade all of our equipment for all our PPE. I just turned in my last pair of bunker pants. They were 20 years old. They passed inspection.
Chief's looking for some stuff.
It's black. It's black. Although it might be a little long. Covered suspenders though. I don't match good with you. So you know the things are coming down that we're required to do, and a lot of it's adding costs. We communicate this to the bodies that are putting this out. They default, and probably for good reason, for safety of the individuals, but there's multiple ways of making sure that the individuals are safe. But we'll continue to work through that as we go forward. With the advent of the new dispatch CAD system that was brought in, NextGen, the money there also included funding for the fire department to get onto that system as well. So we've just, this isn't one of them, but an iPad will now be installed in every fire apparatus, and then we can respond and track our movements and the movements of the other equipment in the system. All online. We can get pre-plans, we can get access to the assessor's database for floor plans, hydrant locations, GPSing. So we're adding this system. We've got one client running right now, and we'll install that and the rest of them in the trucks. So every truck will now have an iPad, plus it opens up the doors for us to do our checklist and equipment checks, truck checks, all online. We can eliminate all the paper that we've had been doing for years. So that's another project we undertaken, and we're working through that, working very closely with Sergeant Joseph and the police department to get that set up. So good progress there. And then maintenance on our equipment, truck maintenance, DOT inspections, annual inspections mandated by state. It drives most of a lot of our, probably in excess of $100,000 a year of maintenance costs. Pumps, equipment, stuff just wears out, needs to be replaced. DOT is now mandating that we have tires be replaced every 7 years, whether they need it or not, from a safety perspective. So again, another example of some mandates driving up our costs. On the flip side, we've done everything we can find. We're sharing in the fuel farm with the town. We've been doing that for, I think we're at 9 years now, 9 or 10 years we've been doing that. We've already upgraded all of our lighting systems in the firehouses. We've done all LED lighting and switches and auto switches. We put that in 6 years ago with a grant from Eversource. So all the costs we can get to, we buy off the state program for any equipment we purchase. We bid it out, multiple bids, to get the best price we can, and we continue to do some fundraising. For example, all the hand tools for our last truck purchase, LA51, we raised $9,000 and bought it all with donations, so that worked out great. So we continue to run that, and we continue our fire prevention activities, school visits, daycares, Halloween parties, Christmas parties, and parties that people want us to show up at, and we receive donations, and that donation money is used toward the firefighters, and that pays for our things like our Christmas party, our spring dinners, things like that, so that we don't use the town tax money for that. That's using our private funds. We probably have, we got about $400K, $450 in private funds. That a lot of it was the Holcomb family donation. We got $275 or something from them. That money's put away. We put it into CDs. We get a return on it. Lately, we've been getting a decent return on it. Starting to get where we can recover that. We're not losing money when we're taking out for the different items. For many years, we were losing money off those programs. And then again, we will provide the normal assessment report for the books. We get that every year, so we'll provide that as soon as we're just finished up the year. We had a problem with some accounting issues. We cleaned that up, nothing to worry about, but we'll have the final report this month, so we'll be good on that. a little behind right now, but we've cleaned it up. And then shameless plug, radio system. And then
Yeah.
I'll be back on the 14th loaded.
Okay, let's
For
go
that.
Let's stay on the operating stuff.
Okay.
Any questions for the chief?
So, yeah, I'll start off. The capital fund, you said it wasn't what you had planned originally, or wasn't keeping up.
Wasn't keeping
Is that because your traditional source of funding for the capital plan is being used up for operating expenses and
Yes.
vehicle maintenance?
Yeah, so the money we get from the town, the checks that were issued, that's our capital and our expenditures. So typically, we would go the year, and then whatever's left, we put that away, if you would, in the capital fund. And for many years, we were recovering between 100 and 150,000. Now, operating was running about 100 operating, and now has grown. And again, our new treasurer is running the analysis, so I'll be able to show you the trends and the changes. If you remember, when we did the capital change back a few years ago, we had the trends over 10 years. Well, we've taken a look at the last couple of years, and the costs have far outstripped what we originally thought. So, but I'll bring that, again, not for this budget cycle, but next year we can, and shortly after this, whenever you're ready to talk, we can show the numbers, go through it, and start talking about what might be a better way of dealing with this, and something that the town can help us support.
Thank you.
That'll be item number 137 on the new town manager's list.
He's raising his hand. He knows his
We're not
name.
that polite.
Chief, two quick questions. On the turnout gear, PFAS is connected to the OSHA response.
Right.
And cost of the turnout gear is approaching about 30 grand a set, is it not?
$3,000. $3,000 a person is roughly the average.
Okay. And you have 2 pairs per person at least? One pair?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, 1 pair, again, 39 people, and out of the 39, 31 are structural certified for interior operations, so they would get the full PPE. And then those that aren't will get some portion of that different.
And then in terms of timeline for large equipment orders is about 3 years from the time that you place the order.
That's why we need to talk next year to get going, because that'll make it 4 more years on these existing vehicles. So we're going to be a rescue that'll be 36 years old, 1991 vintage by the time we actually replace it. So,
thank you.
Yep.
Sorry, Mike, I didn't see you raise your hand. Anybody else?
Do you have a sense of why you're doing better with your recruiting? Where are these people coming from?
Some of it's word of mouth. Some of them it's the advertisement. We put the sandwich boards out. Social media tends to bring it home. Others, it's new people moving into town.
Yeah,
I
that's what I was
think
wondering.
3 or 4 have been, if you would, recent transplants within the year, and they were looking for something. They saw the sandwich board and then wanted to get involved. We're even seeing it on the for the auxiliary group. That was typically the wives of the fire department members. They're actually getting members who are not directly affiliated. To people that want to help, people that want to join, and help out. So I think there's a dynamic that's changing in terms of the volunteer spirit, if you would. I don't know how long it's going to last. I mean, you go back, I plotted for 9 years. I mean, some years we only got 1 new person. And what I didn't plot was I didn't plot how many left. The good news is, the folks that are leaving, it's not a high rate. And most people who leave still stay and help out for a couple more years. One of my assistant chiefs, he's still coming to help. He's 70 years old. He's helping at car crashes and things like that. And he can pick up equipment, can help pick up, transport people to get things, et cetera, and help out at the calls. So we still have a lot of interest from the people. The cadet program has been phenomenal. Until recently, 50% of our new members were former cadets. That number's probably dropped a little bit because we got a lot more walk-ons. So I think it's probably a combination. We've been advertising, we put it out there. Again, I think the reimbursement program has had a piece of it. We've seen a much improved attendance rate of fires. I think the reimbursement program is a contributing factor. The Canton Road fire that we had, a car fire turned into a garage. We had 25 people. It takes a few minutes to get there, but there's 25 people. So that's pretty good. Yesterday, a little brush fire call, we had 14 people. So we were able to roll the equipment and provide the service. So, but it depends on the day. 2 o'clock in the morning, alarm call, 4. Because most people know that alarm, we've been there before, and they're not going to lose their sleep over it. So, just a fact of a volunteer organization how it runs. If somebody could find the magic formula, exactly how it worked, I'd love to know what it is and go after it with more gusto. But again, we're at 39 members. It's the highest we've been at for many years.
Any other question on the operating portion? I think I will ask you to save your presentation on the radio communications for next Thursday when we do the capital.
Oh, I'll definitely do that. I still wanted a shout out though.
Another shout out?
I'll shout out, not a presentation, but a shout out.
All right.
But I'll finish the operating side first,
Yeah.
if there's any other questions.
All right, get your shout out.
We need the $4.2 million. It benefits all the major organizations in the entire town of Granby. When you compare it to some of the other projects other people have done, they've been, $2.25 million, and they weren't doing half of what we're doing with this project. The assessment was very clear. All of our equipment's got to go. It's ancient. That one fire truck I was telling you about, its radio is 31 years old, and it's a frontline piece. I invite anyone to look in their homes, find a piece of electronic equipment that's 31 years old that you're still using every day. It doesn't exist in your homes. Why does it exist in our emergency services infrastructure? It shouldn't. We've had great support from Mark, the board, everyone. I think we're awesome. We are this close. We need the affirmative vote from the town. I'll be back on the 14th with a presentation and the details. And then also I'm drafting up on Mark's input, and so flipping my hat here as the chairman of the committee. I'm also drafting up the information to be shared for the drummer and then in social media, et cetera, to get the information out about the system, answer any questions that anyone has. And if anybody has any questions offline, they're more than welcome to reach out to me, and I can provide that. The vendor is Marcus Communications. They've been working with us. They're working on the system now. We have our consultant, Federal Engineering, that's reviewed their proposal. There were no significant technical misses. There were a bunch of typos and things like that, but no significant technical misses. So we believe we got a solid proposal that will do exactly what we need. And I really appreciate all the help from the town. This has been a 9-year project. I started working on this in 2015 with Bill Smith. So we've been at this a long time. So we're ready to go. And it's a 2-year project from start to finish. So we've got to start it this year. The dispatch console is already on its last legs. Okay, if I keep talking about that, you do? Okay. He's my boss on that side, so I just want to make sure I got it. Half the console's not working. There's pieces that we can't get replaced. So we're already on our last legs in the dispatch console, and there's radio pieces that have the same issue. So it's time. And I think we've got a great proposal, a lot of good work by a lot of good people. All the organizations are behind it. And I thank everybody for the help.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Abby, you and your team are up. So want to come up together? I think we got room for you. What page are you on, Abby? Do you remember? D84, Catherine. D94. Sorry. Whenever you're ready.
Abby Kenyon, Director of Community Development.
So just a quick overview of the department. So the primary function is to administer the town's overall land use process, from approval all the way through certificate of occupancy. We also administer the town's housing rehabilitation program, serve as the GIS coordinator, administer the FEMA floodplain regulations, the P&Z process, prepares and administers grants, bonding and public improvements, and supervises the emergency management director, fire marshal, building department staff, engineer, and wetlands officer. So we have measures of activity on D85. I don't know if there are any questions about that. And then getting into the actual budget on D86, you see there's very little change for services and supplies from what was adopted in 23-24 and what's being proposed. The bulk of the budget here is really our GIS and software, so that's comprised of 3 components. We have a GIS consultant who helps with parcel updates. We also pay for online hosting for our GIS service, so it is available to the public to access at home and see the maps in different layers. And then through ARPA funding, last year, the year before, we did upgrade our GIS software for in-house mapping purposes, and there is an ongoing maintenance cost with that. So that's all rolled into the $9,700 that you see there, proposed for 24-25. Any questions?
Anybody? That's good work, Eddie.
Just because I can't let it go without a question. The new plotter that we got also with the ARPA funds, is that in your office as well?
No, so that actually sits outside the town clerk's office, and that has been a huge help. Scott's been able to scan a lot of the maps, so they're available online. We've been using it to scan plans and send off to folks. Our town engineer prints to it, so that's been a great benefit. So thank you all for supporting the purchase of that.
We thought we might get some revenue out of that. Have we started to see it yet? Not really?
No.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Keep going, Abby.
Okay, that's it for me, right? Unless,
Doesn't matter. Your team, whoever you put
My
next
team.
on the team.
all right, Joel, do you wanna?
So I think we're going to D94. '93 is where it starts.
Sure. Well, just a brief overview of what the building department does. I'll put my glasses on so I can see a little better. Typically, the building department has a key part in the actual mill rate of the town. When someone gets a building permit, whether it's a roofing, which is a simple project, or whether it's an addition or a deck or a new house, we get all the building permits for that. We process that. We do the inspections. The assessor also gets a copy of that. So she knows that there's a new taxable piece of property. If you look, we've had some big gains, Harness Way and the one over here across the way on Salmon Brook Street. So all of those permits came through us, and you see that in our income side. And also, we have to do the inspections for that, but all of that gets processed and sent to the assessor so she can maintain or increase the grand list for the town of Granby. So it's important for us to get a lot of permits because that actually helps the town. We do a lot of inspections. Typically, the state requires permits for everything, but decks, roofing, siding, additions, so we will be there while they're being constructed. So we don't necessarily need the fire department. If it's put up properly, we will have less chance for fires. If we make sure the smoke detectors work, there will be less chance for people to be injured in smoke with smoke and CO and all that stuff. So we're an integral safety part, but we're the passive side, so you don't really see us. If you look at our, we have just the regular payroll, that's on page 96. The only difference you'll see on our temporary or part-time, last year we promoted having Simsbury, because they have 2 full-time people down there, to have them come up and help us do inspections if we needed them for the
Station 280.
Station 280, yes. I was thinking the Grand, I'm a little behind on that one. The Station 280 project, they only came up once, and so far we've been scheduling it so that it's just to take it out of our day. So we haven't needed the extra $15,000, give or take, for that amount. If you look at the adopted for 2023 over on the left-hand side, that's the $17,000 column. And if you look over on the right, we've brought it back down to the 2,276. So we've basically taken out having Simsbury come up, because they would come up and do a per diem if we needed them to do inspections. The 2,200 is if our clerk goes on vacation and we need somebody to cover the office, because that's kind of important. She and I can't just stay in the office. We may actually have things to do outside, so that's for our part-time help to cover the office.
Can I stop you there, Bill? So, and this you may have covered this earlier. So what do we think the permit trend will be going forward? It's slowing down pretty significantly.
Yes.
We actually did put that way back at page for C45.
C45?
C45. And obviously you can look, and we've actually had good years because it's been busy. And it's better to give you a conservative guesstimate as to how many houses or how many permits we bring in. If you rely on our guesstimate, and I think we put down 150 on the right-hand side, we anticipate making $150,000 worth of permit fees. That's in addition to what your grand list is. So if we have a good year and we're up in the 439 so far, that's a bonus for your income, because you figured a flat rate for your mill rate. So you get extra amounts, and we covered our office a little bit, but we also brought in more, so it's good for the town. But if you look, we figured just $150,000 just to give a conservative guesstimate.
But in terms of the actual number of permits, there's no big projects that we're foreseeing on the horizon.
No, and as Station 280 wraps up and Harness Way comes to an end too, I think we'll see a little bit of a decrease there.
Over on Station 280, we've given the foundations for the last 2 buildings, and we have not given the building permits for them themselves, so there'll be a good-sized nut for those 2. And then there's the remainder of the houses over on Harness Way, so there might be 8 more. So you're not looking at a huge amount of big projects, or unless something comes in.
And for lack of a better term, the Grand Phase 2, that's complete too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right, thank you, sorry.
Offices and general supplies, if you look, it's a little bit less than last year, but it's one of those things, it's kind of static depending on what you use and what you need. We're going to switch over, we're going to the computer program, which is Municipal for our permits. So we're going to be using a little less paper. So you'll see there's just a little bit of reduction from last year's. He's got a smile on. Okay, well.
Pain in the ass.
Oh. Yeah, anyway, so let's go to the next item.
Did you just call our building inspector what I thought you called him? Or?
No, that's just...
No, he used another term. Anyways.
I'm old school.
Yeah. If you look at staff...
Sorry, I'm sorry. So before you go, so that increase in the software is the permitting application.
That's correct.
And we should expect to see that every year, or is that just this year? So
no,
that's a number that's... Okay.
Yeah, it's an ongoing maintenance fee, or user fee, if you will.
And of course, we've had a lot of people, because other towns are ahead of us in this, and they'll come in and say, oh, are you guys online yet? Because there are other towns that have been online for 2 or 3 years, so we're kind of still playing catch up. I'm not sold on it because I'm a little bit older than some people too, but it's one of those things where it's just a way of the future, and people type all the stuff in and magically it shows up, so it's the way we're going.
Sorry.
Nope. If you look at staff training, there was only a mild increase in that. We went from the 200 last year to the 250. The state legislature requires your zoning enforcement people to be actually Casio certified now, and I had just passed mine. So that's just an extra bit of training that we have to go to. It's not crazy. Professional development, that is typically the organizations we belong to, New England Building Officials, Connecticut Building Officials, CASIO, Connecticut Association of Zoning Enforcement Officers. It's all the things that we go to get extra education, and you can say you're a member of. So it's a benefit. If you look at permit forms, we kept it the same. You'll probably see that decrease because that's going to be the online forms that we go to, but we kept it at the same for now. Publications and education, we just bought the code books last year. Typically the state changes the code roughly every 3 years. They changed the statewide, so all building departments are the same, and fire marshals. It was October 1st, 2022. So we'll probably maintain the same code that we're under, maybe 3 years, but the state's in charge of that, so that could be a magical 3 years, it could be 6. But with the publications and education, that's if we go to classes. The state's doing a lot of online classes, so that's considerably easier than it was, say, 10 years ago, because you had to actually go somewhere to get education, whereas now everybody's Zoom and they have Zoom classes, and there's opportunities for things that are sit in the office and plug them in. Software application, as we talked about, that's basically Minicity. So there's really not any big changes other than the Minicity. Do you have any questions?
On the software, is that like a projected contract that it'll be like 14,255 for a couple of years, or is it going to be projected to increase year over year?
Yeah, so we do have a contract with them, so that's for this coming year, and then each year there is a slight increase.
Okay. Is it like 2-3% or?
I don't want to, I can look at it,
Okay.
but I don't want to, yeah, I'll tell you the wrong thing.
Any other questions for Joe? Anyone? All right, we can skip to CJ.
Wait, can I do fire prevention?
You can.
Filling in for Brian.
Okay.
So filling in for our fire marshal, Brian Long is our fire marshal. He works part-time, 20 hours a week. He's responsible for inspecting all the properties that are required under state statutes. So there are different inspection cycles depending upon the type of occupancy. He does all the plan reviews, works closely with Joel, going out, when there are construction projects in town. And he also responds as needed to residents inspecting, fire alarms and helping them with the installation of smoke detectors too. In terms of the budget, it's a pretty streamlined budget for him. He has payroll. We are showing an increase, proposing an increase in his hourly rate for this coming fiscal year. And then that figure also includes hours for a deputy fire marshal. So when Brian is on vacation, we have a deputy who is able to cover the office as needed, process burn permits. If there is a fire, he's able to respond and do a fire inspection. So we found that coverage has been very helpful. So that's temporary and part-time payroll. For fire marshal services, there is a slight increase there. So this line item, this is for office supplies, his cell phone, uniform. The increase is largely driven by his fire inspection software. So he is piggybacking off of the system that Lost Acres Fire Department uses. He purchased a module which allows him to inspect properties, automatically enter it into the system, generate reports, and then it also makes it easier for scheduling purposes to know when a property needs to be inspected. And there is, again, interface with Lost Acres because it's part of the same system there. And that's it for his budget.
Sab, I have a question on the deputies. Do we outsource that when we need it, or?
No, so we have a standing deputy, Troy Wolf. He's actually covering now because Brian's on vacation.
Okay. Any other questions?
So this is an increase in rate or hours? Or
Increase in rate.
Just rate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. And there is a little bit of cushion in hours just in general, so if you multiply it out, to take into account if he has to respond to a fire and there are additional hours needed for that inspection. Although typically he will try to adjust his schedule, so if he's over 1 week, the next week, if his schedule allows, he'll reduce his number of hours, so he tries to manage it like that as well to stay within budget.
Okay.
The deputy is not something we added this year?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? Catherine, is there anybody on Zoom? Yep. Anybody new on Zoom, I guess? One person. Okay. All right, CJ, now you're up. And then we are on page 98. 98. D98. Sorry.
Good evening. I'm CJ Steiger. I am new to this process, so if there's anything I'm doing wrong here, just correct me. But I took over as the emergency management director January 1, so pretty much brand new here. What I see myself as is the liaison from the town to the state of Connecticut for any emergencies or preventative measures. So between Granby and Eversource, pretty much goes through me and through the Department of Homeland Security and the town for planning purposes and for responding to emergencies. That I am the kind of point person, the liaison. I have a CERT team, a team of volunteers that I work with and manage. They get trained to some basic mitigation levels. They also help out in the community for planned events, traffic management type situations, search, situations like that they're trained to, they can help out with. I work part-time, 10 hours a week, some weeks more, some weeks less, averages out to about 10 hours. I control the local emergency operations plan. Every 2 years it's updated. It's basically the playbook or the standard operation procedure for major incidences that could run the gamut of anything that could possibly happen in this town. So I have to work with each department for their subject matter expert in their situation that I coordinate, deal with the state. That would be essentially my biggest responsibility. My wages are half contributed through a grant known as the EMPG, Emergency Management Performance Grant. I've been here for 2 months. I've already took all of my classes to be eligible for that grant. The grant was submitted already February 26th. So my wages are half through that, half through the town of Granby. Those numbers come from population numbers. That's how the grant decides how much money the town's going to get. Some training that I have here. I have a lot of training I have to take just to get myself up to speed. I have a management symposium coming up, this Connecticut Emergency Management Symposium, and I have a risk assessment critical infrastructure class in April and May. Those are the near future things that are planned. Like I said in the past, I took 32 hours worth of FEMA classes last month to make myself eligible for that grant. So FEMA plays a huge role in driving what I need to be educated in. The rest is office supplies, general supplies. Abby can probably speak better there for me, as I'm still learning to know what I need. But
yeah, so that would also cover any supplies that the CERT team needs. As volunteers, we do equip them with some supplies when they are assisting and responding.
That's right.
Yeah.
My last CERT meeting, the end of February 29th, we went through all our supplies, created an inventory of what everybody should have, what needs to be replaced, etc.
So is that why that line says 1,400 even though we're only expecting to spend 800 this year? You're catching up on supplies?
Correct.
What are the supplies?
It's a backpack. It's a backpack with, I imagine, like a Boy Scout would have, a little bit of everything. I mean, they have a tool in there that could shut off water in the street, gas to your house, EMS supplies, pocket valve masks. I mean, it's just a backpack full of guides and pens, markers, anything you could need for storm or some mitigations.
And typically too, the CERT team, luckily they haven't been needed too frequently, but they do assist with parking management for some of our bigger events in town. So getting them like reflective vests and things like that so they're safe when they're out there.
The Granby Road Races, I think the next event that we have planned that we're in the process of handling right now. But I know in the past elections they've been used for. There's a disaster drill coming up. But yeah, they're equipped to kind of be a jack of all trades.
How many CERT members do you have right now?
10.
10. It's really too much time for doubling.
Okay. Any other questions? Last chance, any other questions? Thank you, guys. Good work. So the next one on the agenda is the health services. I tried to get Sandy to come and cover for me, and she said no. So it's me. They're on page D100 and D101. This is self-explanatory. The increases are very minor. Almost all of them, the total of the minor increases in the Farmington Valley Health District, which is based on the census. Our costs are up a little because the latest census has our population up a little, believe it or not. And then the good news is a lot of those other services are remaining flat for us. They are a combination of must-haves and are very good to haves because these groups are providing services to us on a regional basis that we couldn't afford to get directly by ourselves. So you Board of Selectmen members will remember we've actually, I think, done a good job of making them come regularly and explain what they're doing and keep us in the loop. So Board of Finance members, we've had gotten from the Health District and the Visiting Nurses Association their annual reports, and they've actually come and made presentations to us and reminding us of the services they're providing, getting our regular input on other things we might need. So this is pretty straightforward. Any questions for me?
Yeah.
Bring it on.
I'm just thinking with the apartments going in and if anything's, per resident charge, is the budget based on like the prior year end or?
Are these budgets?
Yeah.
No, with the ones that were there, we pay a fee to them based on population. It's done by the census. So Kenny can correct me if I'm wrong, but even though our population is increasing,
right,
it wouldn't be reflected until the next census in these fees.
Okay.
Now that doesn't mean, like the health district, for example, you guys remember when they came in our presentation?
Right.
They adopt a budget every year. So
I'm just wondering, we're going to see the spike from the, when the apartments start to get populated.
We didn't ask them that question, yeah, right? That is a good question for them. Next time we get them, we'll ask them. As I think, again, I'll remind you guys, so we repopulated that board. So Sandy Yost and Joni Cunley are our representatives on that board, so two people who really know that business very well. And I think they've done a good job of representing us, making sure that we're getting good value for the services they're providing. So, but that's a good point, Kelly. It's not just the census. Next year they could adopt a budget based on increased needs everywhere, and that number would go up, even though our population would go up.
If I could, the VNA official, chairman, CEO, who came in to talk to us, is it still the Farmington Valley, or is it the Foothills?
No, you're right. They changed the name.
No, I'm sorry. Did they change the name when they merged, or are we still dealing with the Farmington Valley VNA?
I thought they changed the name.
Litchfield or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they changed the name.
It's a bigger entity now.
The Farmington Valley VNA merged with the Foothills or Litchfield Hills. I forget which title it was. So there's one VNA that covers from Salisbury all the way to East Granby and Simsbury.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on this? The last thing I want to do is give Chief Sampson more time. So, I was just going to say, while you guys are coming up, let's take a break. I need to use the restroom, but we can grab a sandwich. 5 minutes. We will be back here at, we'll say 7 minutes. We'll be back here at 6:25 and roll into the next one. Everybody okay with that? Grab a sandwich, grab something.
You can have some.
Can I try that?
All right, everybody, let's get back to work. Chief, Catherine, we're on page D102, I believe. Yep. Take it away, Chief.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Just first, I'm Chief Scott Sansom. I'm new to this. I think I was about 2 weeks in when we did this budget, maybe not even. So it's a new experience for me too. Similar budget process, but not knowing deep in, so I'll do my best. I have my right hand, even though she's sitting on my left, that knows the budget inside and out. So for most of you that don't know her, she's my accreditation manager / police administrator / you name it, schedule. She does everything. So it's Trish Tappington, that you don't know, I've been with the town for a long time.
2009.
Yeah, and then most of you know my captain, Kurt LaFamme, who is my second in charge. So just a brief overview, and I'll try to be quick. Welcome, my town manager and old boss. So we're a CALEA accredited department agency. We have 16 sworn officers. That includes myself and Kurt. We have so a chief, a captain, 4 sergeants, which are our street supervisors that kind of watch and control everything, 9 patrol officers, and 1 detective. I have 2 civilian employees, 1 full-time police administrator and accreditation manager, non-union, and that would be Trish. And then we have a civilian part-time records manager who's non-union, and she's kind of does it all as well. The complexity of police work in the last 10 years and the administrative burden that federal and state law has put on us is tremendous. Years ago, you had everyone in the street, maybe the chief paid the bills, and now it's like you're like looking at most departments, 20 to 30% is administration of the things that we have doing. So she's doing not only records, but NIBRs, FOI requests, so that's been a huge increase, especially with the body cameras and dash cameras, things of that nature, all have to be redacted. So you actually go in and watch several officers' video for one incident and put black dots and things on faces, so it takes a long time. She does our stats and deals with our courts, data, paperwork, bail commission. There's a whole list of things she does. And then we have 1 animal control officer who's under contract and who's shared amongst other agencies. Along with that, I have 4 full-time telecommunicators, which we are full as of tomorrow. We will be. We had 1 leave that was in training, but we had 1 in the rears that was training part-time that will move into full-time, I believe, effective Tuesday. She came in today to sign some papers. So that leaves me with 21 full-time, 4 part-time, and 1 contracted ACO. We do about 12,000 calls for service. That's what we did last year. They range from medical emergencies, check welfare, larceny, assault, juvenile-related matters. We had 1 officer retire. We had 2 telecommunications personnel resign. We had 1 resign and 1 leave. So our challenges for the year: staffing, hiring police officers and telecommunicators. We had 1 retire just recently, but we were able to hire 1 fairly quickly, and that was through word of mouth. A 20-year veteran, but still a young individual. He's maybe 41, 42 years old. He was a superstar in Enfield, and we were able to take him on, so it was really good. It saves us about $150,000 when I hire an already certified person, because it takes a year's salary with fringe, paying in the academy, and then to fill that hole. Now that's just $150 to pay them to get them up and running, but we're also paying time and a half overtime for a 4-year of salary filling that spot. So very critical for us to stay ahead of the game. We've already started recruiting for our next 2. Kurt's been doing a phenomenal job of that just through word of mouth to try to get certified people over here. I don't think we've hired, it's been about 11 years since we've hired a brand new fresh person. Also challenges, CLIA accreditation. So we're CLIA, we've gone in and out of CLIA a few times. It's a 4-year cycle. It's a tremendous amount of work. I think I had 4 full-time people in East Hartford working on CLIA. I was able to get them CLIA accredited. We went through 2 cycles, so for about 8 years. Here, Trish just got us accredited, recertified for a 4-year cycle. The kicker is the state put an unfunded mandate with everybody now has to be either CLIA accredited or state accreditation, which is a 3-tier accreditation program. It's required, so by January 1 of 26, we have to, every police department in the state has to be accredited. You either have to be CLIA advanced, which we're not, we're CLIA, we're just CLIA 1, which a lot of agencies are. So CLIA 1 agencies have to become advanced by 2026 of January, or you have to hit the 3-tier on the state. So Trish has been to several meetings throughout the state trying to figure out what's the best avenue for us, really by the dollar, and what fits our agency. So we're a little concerned because you're looking at the 3 of us, really Trish, and then us on the outskirts of feeding her information. So that's a big challenge coming up. And we have a brand new CAT RMS system, which actually runs our department. Still very new. Our staff for the next couple of years are going to be a little skewed. We're trying to dial that in. I have actually some people coming in the next few months to build out some dashboards for us, so where I'll be able to give you, on a drop of a dime, I'll be able to put in some dates, and I'll be able to get you live time information. And I'll probably end up doing a monthly thing on our internet page to do that, just for transparency. So our radio agent out, I'm not going to get into that. Our weapons are end of service life. Not a huge expense, but they're due, overdue. And then some training issues that we've neglected over the last few years. So in a nutshell, you'll see in the proposed budget, I look at an overall 3% increase from last year's budget. If you look at the police administration, it's up about $15,000 overall, which is about a 3.8% increase. And then our operations and communications budget is up just slightly under 3%. So with a total of about a little over 3% increase overall, which is about $73,000 in the overall $2 million budget. All right, we can start first. Let's start with, this is really the finance department, but our payroll. We are going to be going into contract negotiations for a new contract for July 1. So that figure, there might be a little movement depending on where the contract goes and what raises are negotiated. The temporary part-time, as you see, it's up, or it's down a little bit. That fluctuates. If you look at the trend of our overtime in those 2 accounts, they've been over for the last 5 years, and depending on the year, it goes up and down. I think in 2020, let's see here, we were 224,000 in overtime. We were over 23,000. 2021, we were over 90,000. In 2022, we were over 130,000. 2023, we were over 71,000. And right now, I'm projected at looking between a $50,000 and $60,000 overage in overtime. That is connected to the part-time dispatcher overtime with that. Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. So the 2022 is the salary for our part-time. I'm going to look to change that next year. That's our part-time records manager. So she works, when you multiply it all out, she works about 20 hours a week at her salary. That might go up or down depending on her raise, what she would get this year. So that's a little fluid. Get into 3 and 4, simple office supplies, toner, things of that nature that go up. Everything's been going up. We really did a deep dive into everything because me getting an education on this for the first time, I want to know where every kind of penny went, and Trish did a really good job at that. Professional development, I believe that was a increase that includes IACP, the FBI, our Chiefs Association, Connecticut. Those are all the dues that we pay out to all the organizations that we need to belong to. I believe also our firearms range, the Hartford Gun Club, come out of that as well. So you'll see an increase in that. Next increase, contractual services, which is a minor increase of $400, and that's for accreditation. So PD operations, I can move on to that. If you look at all right, that's where I was talking about earlier. So the temporary part, it went down 23%. That number is all over the place. What we do, we have one position for part-time dispatcher. It's Sunday morning. So when you calculate that out, it cost me about $10,000 to $12,000 for that one position. However, the part-time employees also backfill full-time vacancies when a full-time person doesn't take it. So in their contract's written, if there's a vacancy, someone takes vacation, they're hurt, they're sick, that there's an opening, it goes through the rotation per contract for a person. If they don't take it, we offer it to the part-timer, and the part-timer takes it. So there's some years they'll take a lot of it, so that number is very high. But what it also does is it drives down my overtime in the general overtime, which the general overtime is including our dispatchers and our police officers. And those were the numbers I was giving you earlier. We've just been, it's over, and I think what we do is through fund balances, we end up covering that wherever I can kind of scrape in other funds. The part-time dispatcher, that account, like in 2020, we were over about $5,000. In 21, we were only over about $3,000. 22, it jumped up to 17,000. And in 23, we were over 10,000. And this year, we're year to date, I think we spent about 11,000. So, but then if you look at the 2020 to 2024 numbers, like I said, there's some years we were overall over 23,000, all the way up to 130,000 overage in the overtime for the department. Services and supplies. If you have any questions on that, they're all just overages. There's some unit calibrations for our radar, our laser, things of that nature that need to be qualified for court. We have services that come in to pay for that. That's up a little bit. There's our public education. In fact, we have some handouts I can hand out for you. We're trying to, when I was hired here, and if you read the newspapers, I can put these around. It's just things that we're trying to do is we're trying to get the police department more into a community response to having more things. If you notice, we had a few more food drives this year. We have an academy, a public safety academy for the kids, which was an event that went really well. We've had a huge demand for it to have it back, so we're going to put together for it back. Last year we paid for it really out of pocket, from cops to union. We have one dispatcher that paid hundreds of dollars out of her own pocket, so really can't ask for that again. So we bumped up that line item, and that's for giveaways for food, for things of the nature that those types of meetings and events and community response things cost. And I think years ago, Trish was saying we used to run about $18,000 or $1,800 in that account, but over the years, I guess the department didn't participate in much, kind of, so little by little, not using it, it went to the $600.
Correct.
Postage, simple one. It's just the cost of postage went way up. That account's always been underfunded, and that's for everything we do is through certified mail, and sometimes it's packages and things of that nature for equipment, evidence, things of those natures. Big one is uniforms. So the uniform budget here, like, I mean, I still drive, I use a used jacket. We have, there's been the last few years, because we're hiring certifieds, we've just been giving them patches, and they've been asked to like bring their used stuff with them. It's not appropriate. It's not the way, we're probably the only agency right now that does that in the state. We need to be uniform, we need to give fresh, good equipment. So we have a $750 contractual obligation that they need through, and it's through a system. We hang on to the $750 per certified officer, and through a quartermaster, through Trish, she watches it. There's authorized what you can buy, and they spend that every year to get what they need. Part of that, though, is a vest, which is $1,500. The bigger end of it is the initial issue, like I had. So when we get a new person in, it's about $4,000 for initial issue for an officer. So some years that might be high, some years that might be low. I think this year we're anticipating at least 2, probably 3 that might leave. So that's going to be 3 new hires at $4,000 a pop, and that basically gives them, you know, and it's not everything, but it's a pretty complete list. You know, shirt, tie, badge, tie clip. I mean, and we can pass out. Yeah, you can pass out the list.
Just so they understand.
Yeah, the cost
This
of
is
it.
initial issue.
And so right now I didn't purchase a vest. I didn't purchase a winter jacket. It's $500. I got to wait and see if I have some money left over. Then I'll buy the rest of the uniforms. I bought 3 shirts, 3 pairs of pants. So we really need to outfit the officers when they come in. So the majority of that increase is that, and to play catch up, a few of the officers out there to get them the jacket that's approved by the department that matches everybody else, to go back to fix those things for that. So that was one of the bigger cost increases. Medical supplies, that's everything from oxygen, which is expensive, to gloves, masks, tourniquets, you name it. We're first medical responders in town, as you know, so we're the first ones there. Sometimes the only ones there to give medical treatment, and that gets costly. Cruiser supplies, that's everything from crime tape to door wedges, flashlights, flares, glow sticks, all those things you see. A lot of that gets used up in accidents. There's been an increase with all our vendors on that, so that's why you see a slight increase on that. There's go bags there. Yeah, I think that's it. Like I said, when I first got here, it was my first budget. I asked the acting town manager, first selectman, I said, do I just keep the lights on, or can I go at it? And I said, quite frankly, he goes, just keep the lights on. So, I said, because I didn't know how we ran things here. So you'll find my reputation, and Mike knows, I ask for what I need, so I won't put fluff in a budget unless I'm told to. I usually just this is what's going to keep the lights on, this is what my needs are. Because then usually if it's, all right, if it's a need, then cut the need if I can't afford to do it. There's a few concerns, not many, but so some training issues and things, not heavy cost items. I said, listen, when I get next year, it might look a little different, but I'm very transparent. I'll explain everything to you exactly down to what, why, when, and Trish is very good at saving money and finding little ways to. I've only been here, 3-4 months, and she's just on it. No, I can get that cheaper there. I know where I can get that, and I can find that. And so we're very resourceful there, and the cops that come there know that. So they're not looking for pie in the sky stuff. They're just looking to just get things, like I said, there's very simple basics, uniform, car, a weapon, training to get out there to do their jobs. And so that's what this is really reflecting of, just what we need to keep the lights on. The only thing, like I said, because of the contracts and the payroll, that's really the unknown right now because we have the contract coming up. We just are in the midst of settling the dispatcher contract, so I think we're just waiting on that to get ratified. If there's any questions.
Go ahead, Mike.
So I'll start. I see the CAD CRMS systems maintenance. I think that was one of the items that we instituted with ARPA funds for the CAD's RMS.
The CAD RMS is a new system that might be, I don't know how we paid for that. Do you remember?
We used ARPA funds to pay for it.
Yeah, and then there's a yearly maintenance cost with that.
That's what I was looking for, whether this is going to be recurring.
Correct.
Yes. And that's, so just so you know, Next Gen is probably used by, I'd say now about 98% of the departments. Myself and Mr. Walsh put that in place, and he started about 7 years ago. We pulled out of a state project that we thought was going to crash, and it did. So, but now I would say almost 98% of the departments in the state have that system.
Question through the chair.
Where's my gavel? Go ahead.
A couple of years ago, police accountability bill changed the face of policing in Connecticut. You did a number of things in East Hartford. Your assessment of your department now, are they comfortable with police accountability bill? Do you need to get some additional, not training, but to put the officers' fears at ease? What have you done, or what will you do?
So, it's funny. We have really good people, really good. There's no one that I went, who's that? Like, what are they about? And they're very experienced. Most of our officers, I have a retired sergeant from Farmington, I have a retired sergeant from West Hartford. I have a retired Vernon police officer. I have newer individuals, a lot younger, did 3 or 4 years in Torrington. I have one of my old homicide detectives from my Hartford days, works midnights, very super experienced, been through it, understand it. So no, we have no new person that's like, what is this? Because I think you have two groups. The middle group doesn't like the police accountability bill. They think it's changed the job and everything else, which it has a little bit. But then you have the older guys like myself that know how we can still operate and protect the community within the restrictive rules we were put, because there are very restrictive rules now that we're seeing traffic accidents up and fatalities up, and there's a lot of things that have happened because of that. So they're working around that, and the community, what I've seen, supports the police really good. So I don't think I would have came here otherwise, not at this stage in my career. That helps them out, and they know that, so they're out there for the community. I get calls all the time from the community just that they're doing the right things. My only concern with the department is, I asked for the 2 officers, and I know Carl's been doing that probably for 13 years, and it might be next year where I'll show you why and the critical need for it. But I'm more concerned that we might be able to look at different strategies, which I'll talk about, is because it's a supervision. There's some nights there's no supervision. To me, that's an issue. I've been through a lot in my 30 years, and I don't want to bore you, but that's key. So we might be able to figure out another way to keep the costs down that fits our community, that we can all be like we're doing the right thing. But you have a very professional department, and I'm very happy to be the leader of it, and it's been very good. So I can't say enough about them.
I would say two things, Chief. First of all, thank you. You guys are doing a tremendous job. When we talked to you during the hiring process, we said that community policing was a really, really big thing for us, and you've hit the ground running, and I hear nothing but great stuff about it. And I told some people privately, so I might as well say it publicly, I loved your answer when you asked for 2 officers, and I said no. Because what I actually said was, Chief, we're not going to discuss that the first time in a budget. You've got to sell that to the community because they write the checks. They have to approve the budget. So you convince us you need officers, and I'll help you convince the community. And your answer was, I was very proud of it. He goes, I get it. That was it. I get it. Yep. And he moved on. I appreciate that. I really do.
No. Yep. No, you'll get honest answers. I won't fluff. I won't. I don't have that reputation, and I've been around the state. I sit on post council. I certify every officer in the state. I'm one of 3 chiefs, so every single cop you see comes by my desk. I started the wellness committee back 15 years ago. I was part of the PTSD legislation. I've been around. I was at the Capitol for a while in the legislative committee, so I know how the whole state works. I'm not going to jeopardize any of that just to pull a wool over someone's eyes. So, and I'll always try to do it on the cheapest way possible. I'll give you the best possible. And I'm afraid to ask Kimmy for money, so.
I am too.
Not my problem.
They laughed at me for asking a question through the chair, so you know you were getting next.
This is someone said, they go, you've been a cop for like 30 years. Weren't you a city cop? I go, yeah, she scares me. I'm going to do what she says.
All right, any other questions? Make sure you come back next Thursday when we do the capital, because you got some stuff in there we got to really go through.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Sounds good.
Anything else? Anybody?
No, I just put it on the capital thing too, because I think when we were doing the assessment of the full list, one of the items that was there were replacement cruisers. So.
Yeah,
and cruisers went way up. I think in East Hartford, I was paying about $40,000 for the car in like a $15,000 outfit, and that was a bump. That was a few years ago. I think it's now $65,000. It's about $50,000 for the car, and trying to get them is even harder. So that's why you're starting to see Chevy Tahoes and Durangos and different things, because the Ford Interceptor Explorer, like we drive, they dried up. So and that's why everyone's going with black. You're not seeing like your blues and silvers and all different kinds of colors, because we know we can get black, and so it's it's going to be difficult, but that's one of those things you don't want to get behind. We didn't buy any cars last year, and there's like a rotation of it and the way they work, because those things are always on. It's like, I don't know, maybe 30 miles for every hour or something. They idle. They take a beating, and so you don't want to get behind in that because you'll pay for it later. So if you could spread it out, and I think they used to put in for 3 cars. I think 2, from what I've seen, is probably more appropriate. That's between everybody's cars. I think we get an admin car probably every 4 or 5 years. Those go on to detectives. There's a detective car, a spare. But I am looking already at increasing the PJ rate. We do use cars on private jobs a lot, so Mark approached me on that to take a look at that. And so I think we're going to be able to do that and still stay within market range of the surrounding towns. So I think we are a little low on that, and so Mark asked me to look into that. So that'll give you some relief on that.
Okay. Anything else? Nobody leave here without taking some sandwich and cookies with you, please.
Yeah, and I want to thank, like I said, Trish has like been on this thing And she already built me out a whole thing for next year, so we can track everything over the years, so for me, we can even give you more.
Before we pack up, is there anybody in the audience that wants to speak in public session? Is there anybody else?
Yes, I'd like to say something.
Thank you.
Steve Worley.
Go ahead, Steve.
I just wanted to emphasize a few things with the Granby ambulance. I know everybody's tired and there's a lot on the table, but my name is Steve Worley. I live at 15 Granville Road in North Granby, Connecticut. I've been an active member, riding member, EMT with the GAA for 16 years now. And I've had the opportunity to see a lot of changes and learn a lot of things. And one of the things I've learned is that this organization, the EMS, Emergency Medical Services, is in a critical state at this point. We really need the support of Granby, not only financially, but in other areas. Specifically, I think it's important this year, not next year, but this year, to at least match the financial contributions that are being made by the town of East Granby as a bare minimum. And I think, there's been some positive discussions on the support of helping us get to another ambulance. But we're in a critical mode right now where if we lose a chief of service such as Kate Coop, we would end up paying probably $125,000, $150,000 a year to replace a total volunteer position at this point. Our ambulance service is one accident away from being in a critical mode where we're running with ambulances that have 200,000 miles on them. So it's not something that we can really kick the can down the road much longer. So I'm really asking, and I know there's a lot of need in the town. Certainly, everybody's got that issue to deal with. But it's important for us to realize that, this is something that's not going to go away. And you've seen the red ink and the challenges. We're not getting the insurance reimbursements. What used to be an entire organization built on volunteers is now entirely paid, with the exception of probably 3 people like Lori had mentioned, I being one of them. And it's not sustainable. It's not a model that's going to work for much longer. Thank goodness for the Holcomb Fund and the generous donations of our community, but it's not one that's going to be sustainable for the future. So I ask for financial respect, if you will, with the police department and the fire department. They're being, they've got their challenges, but I think they're being well funded. And I think the Ambulance Association does a tremendous service to this town that when it is gone, it's going to present a mountain to climb that I'm not sure anybody wants to deal with. So I'd just like to close with the fact that thank you for your service and we love you is not enough. It needs to be supported with some financial contributions from the town. And frankly, I'm embarrassed to know that Granby is paying half as much as what East Granby contributes to our resources, and we provide twice as much service to the town of Granby than we do in East Granby. So, tidbits for consideration, but I think it's really important that the selectmen and this town step up to support this organization, because there's a lot of EMS organizations out there, you don't have to look far, that are shuttering and closing their doors for the reasons that Lori and Carol presented to you tonight. We're not getting the funding we need from the insurance companies, Medicare, Medicaid. If it wasn't for the generous donations of this town, then we would be not projecting closure in 3 years, maybe a lot less than that. So I urge you to take this matter seriously, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Steve. Anybody else? Anything else here at the table? If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you Monday night.
Yeah.